We played in Japan. We played all over the United States. We've had, thousands of people hear our music. So that was the victory there. But it was time for everyone to move on and to see what the next chapter would be.
Yeah. So you move into better thing. What happened with the other guys? They end up any of them?
They're all doing well. I mean, in the worlds of jazz, some rock band stuff, and soundtrack music. I mean, this is a talented group. So. Everyone's keeping busy.
That's great. Tell me about your collaboration with the Renaissance and Annie Haslam. And
again, I think that was a type of thing where my name started coming up from multiple sources. Annie would speak to Patrick Moraz or Jordan Rudess, or I think maybe even Larry Fast. And this name, Tom Brislin, she said, was coming up in the conversation. So she said, maybe I should give him a call since this name is appearing. And I think there were a few different plans for the Renaissance reunion in 2009. And the one that ultimately came to pass was the one where I would be the orchestra, and Annie and Michael Dunford would be there, along with some other musicians who were from my neck of the woods, New York, New Jersey area.
Yeah, good. And then Camel came after that, right?
No, Camel was actually in 2003.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Shortly after, it was not that far after Yes. And then Renaissance, I joined for 2009.
Gotcha. And then you began collaborating with for Anderson and Stolt band as well. And Jon Anderson knew you from, the 2001 days with Yes. So I assume that he knew your background and everything, right?
Yeah, but it was actually Roine Stolt who got me into it, because Spiraling and Flower Kings had performed on several progressive rock festivals together. And so we developed a friendship. In fact, when Roine was touring with Transatlantic in 2001, they all came to see Yes in Frankfurt, I believe it was. And so that's early on is when I met those guys. But years later, we started to develop a friendship and a kinship musically. So when Roine started working with Jon, he thought it would be a good idea, and Jon was into it. So they brought me over. I went to Sweden to record my keyboard tracks for that. And years later, I would work with Roine and Jonas Reingold, the bassist, again with See Within.
Yeah, that's another band. Unbelievable. I downloaded, I think I went to Bandcamp last night or the day before, and I end up, I think you have two CDs there. The Transmitter for Spiraling and Hurry Up and Smell the Roses. And they're very good, man. I like, there's a couple of songs that, I wonder if you can mention or elaborate a little bit. The Industry in the Distance from Hurry Up and Smell the Roses. How that song came together?
Yeah, that song is very special to me, and I think it really encapsulates my experience of creating that album. Because after Spiraling folded, I wanted to get a fresh perspective, try a new city, and try to get away from the trappings and distractions of the life that I was living at the time. And I always had this sort of fantasy of making an album where I play everything or almost everything on it. And so I moved to Nashville in 2010 and started writing this album. And Nashville's a songwriter town, and I started befriending and witnessing the great care and craftsmanship that these songwriters take in their songs. So it made me focus on lyrics more and really be clear about what I wanted to express. And next thing you know, I'm in my own world making this album. And wouldn't you know it, of course, some of the songs have to do with isolation.
That's right.
Because that was the condition that I just set for myself. And Industry in the Distance, it has a lot to do with, it seems like everywhere I live, there's always like a train or a highway or something not far away where it almost sounds like the ocean in the background. And I felt like no matter where I am in the world, there's something consistent. And that was sort of the impetus for writing Industry in the Distance.
How many albums have you done with Spiraling altogether?
We did 2 albums as Spiraling. Time Travel Made Easy was the last one. And then we did an EP before Time Travel Made Easy and after Transmitter, called Challenging Stage, which was almost a live in the studio kind of thing, where we just threw down 4 songs and didn't fuss too much about it. We just wanted to get sort of an immediate sound. Prior to Transmitter, when we were called You Were Spiraling, we released a 3 CDs on our own, but they were very modest productions. And the first one, You Were Spiraling, was something I was doing when I was 19 in college, and it was a tremendous learning curve. I mean, it wasn't even really ready to come out, but that was in the mid 90s, when it was such a novelty that an independent band could make their own CD. Because it used to think, I could only put out a record or something if I was on a label. You needed that sort of permission, that approval of a major label or a big indie or something. But this was like, you could take your fate into your own hands. And so we did, and we learned the ropes, and we were onto something. And I still have fondness for some of the material we did. We did also a CD called the Hello CD, and something called Delusions of Grandeur, which was all demos, which would lead to Transmitter. So it's a tough question. It's a long answer, I know. It's like, because Spiraling released 2 albums and an EP, and You Were Spiraling released 3 albums.
And then, do you sell a lot? Do you get decent money or any money at all from Bandcamp? I think I have heard with some people that it's very good. It's very decent,
Yeah, well, it's no secret that record sales are not what they used to be. They're just a piece of the puzzle. Yeah. And my album, Hurry Up and Smell the Roses, is almost 8 years old now. And so it had a good run, and it's time, and people are still discovering it. And I think the music still has value, and I still want more and more people to hear it. But I realize I look at what I've done since then. I said, okay, I did the Anderson Stolt, and I did the See Within and the Kansas. I've been busy, but the stuff that I have on Bandcamp is all catalog stuff. And so, but thanks to my work with Kansas, there's a whole new community that's discovering my story and my history. So they've been really supportive. And so I've been getting that out there. But yeah, I think we're all trying to figure out what the path is for musicians in the modern age of streaming and that sort of thing. So it's more of a discovery engine, and developing a more personal relationship with the audience than it used to be.
Yeah. I noticed also, I think, what's the application Stage It, that I get emails that you did some live streaming as well, right?
Yes, I did a performance on Stage It to benefit the Bob Moog Foundation, and it was part of a series. And because of the COVID situation, I hadn't done any performing since March 6th or 7th, I think it was. And I didn't want to do something like just from this black box in my home. I like to perform, but that's kind of cool too. I see some people just playing their hearts out from home, and I enjoy it. But for me, I was not sure if that's what I want to do. So they found a theater for me nearby where I could be the only one in the place, save for the camera operators. And They had this beautiful Fazioli grand piano, and I brought my Moog synth and just performed 2 shows in there for Stage It. So I guess
how many people attended, as far as attended that, paid the fee that you need to pay?
I don't recall the numbers, but it's a good audience, and what's also, it's a good size audience, definitely worthwhile.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I also think it was cool because they always have like a chat going at the side, so there's this like community interaction, and it's also silent, so people can focus on the music if they want to and not be disturbed by somebody who's chatting during the show.
Is that recording somewhere that people can listen to? Or
not yet, but I do have the footage, so I am considering putting out an official release, properly mixed, for more to see.
Yeah, of course. It would be interesting to see it. And then in 2017, you go from the supergroup, man, the See Within, which has so many good musicians, man. How that came together, man?
Again, I think that Royna Stolt and Jonas Reingold were kind of the drivers of that idea. And So they were the ones that were seeking the different musicians throughout the world to be a part of this. And there was talk of it becoming like a full-time band sort of thing, but everybody in the group has so many things going on that it sort of took on more of the project flavor. But we did want to have a group sound, and we had a lot of contributors as well that made it more diverse sounding. And we performed 3 times. We performed at Night of the Prague in Germany in 2018. And then we did 2 performances on Cruise to the Edge in 2019. And that's been it so far. But I could see we could be back for something else in the future. Who knows? I mean, we just sort of like kind of see which way life is flowing, and it could happen. But I know that everyone's got their they're knee deep in so many other projects right now.
Yeah. I really liked it, man. I mean, I do have the album, like not the album, the CD. I buy a lot of stuff, so I really like it. I listened to the stuff last night again. I like the sound at all. I mean, of course, there yourself and the other guys for Porcupine Tree, Flying Colors, and Steve Haggett's and big names. So it was very, very good. And is any plan to do another album down the road, or?
Well, like I said, it's possible. The door is open.
Yeah.
But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I got you. And then in 2018, Cans announced that you were coming to join the band. How did it happen? That of course.
A lot of it had to do with that performance with the Sea Within at Night of the Prague. The president of our label was there, and Kansas is a label mate of the Sea Within on Inside Out Music. So when they had a need, I got a lovely referral from Thomas Weber, the president of Inside Out. So you should check out Tom Brislin. We just saw him play, and I think he would be a good fit. So Phil Ehart gave me the call, and they asked me to join based on what they checked out my work, and they saw what Thomas had to say. So I was asked to join the band. And going back to the very beginning of this interview, you were talking about what's next. The difference with Kansas is that I'm from the get-go, I'm a full band member.
This is the first time, right?
For those other groups, it was a collaborative thing, but it was a hired thing. It was a touring thing, or a touring and recording thing. Yep. Except for the Sea Within, of course, that was a partnership. But in this regard, Kansas said, we want you to be a band member, and that included the writing opportunities.
And I listened to the stuff, the whole album last night. I was preparing to the interview. Somehow, I'm sorry, my ignorance, I thought, because I follow so many bands, man, I thought that Kansas was done a while ago, and as people retire and they're only one member or 2 member or whatever, it wouldn't be Kansas anymore, right? I was biased. And when I listened to this album last night, preparing for the interview, and trying not to take my vibes into consideration, I felt that that's real Kansas. I mean, it's not. They if nobody have said that, well, that's 20 years after, and a lot of people have left the band, without taking the time to consideration, I can go back and say, man, this could be an album from, 2010, 2012, the best day of Kansas, if you will. I mean, it's very good stuff. Plus, the other thing, you have 6 lyrics, several part of music, as if it's Tom and Kansas. You're honorary member for life, man.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's more than honorary, they say, we want you to be a part of this and be a part of the Kansas story, be a part of the Kansas sound. And I got to work, and I saw the opportunities for lyrics that are vibing and that they like.
Yeah.
I could maybe get 1 or 2 songs. Next thing you know, they just kept showing the green light, saying, yeah, we like it. Go. What do you got
Keep
next?
on going. Keep on going. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there were a few songs that I had written the music for as well. So I was making demos in between our concerts.
Yeah.
And they were so welcoming. And I had to do my homework too, because I wanted it. Obviously, it was going to sound like me because it's my ideas, but it also, I wanted it to be Kansas. And so luckily I had been already immersed in Kansas music to a deep degree because I was learning it for the show.
Yeah.
Point of No Return was swimming in my head while I was writing these other songs. And I didn't want to copy anything, but the spirit, the flavor, I definitely had in my mind while I was writing this stuff.
And then, so when the pandemic is over, we're hoping, you guys will tour for the new album, but it's you plan. Hard, difficult question to ask. Do you plan to stay with them for? It's up to you to stay them for a while, and then, if based on your ambition, what's the next goal? Although you never put goals when you were 19 or 80 years old, right? So now you have the option. Now you have options. They will say, well, I can go this way. I can form my own band, go back to whatever, Peter Gabriel, Genesis, whoever call you after this. And what's it?
Yeah, the funny thing is that if we had continued in 2020, it wouldn't have been long before I could say that I've played more shows with Kansas than I had with any other band.
Right.
Because we were working so much.
Yeah.
So far I've done about, I don't know, maybe 95 concerts or something like that with the group and the album. Yeah. So in a short amount of time, I've have more to show for my career with Kansas than any other of the side person touring groups. And Spiraling had, obviously we had the output with, and that it was come from me and my own album, but I'm talking about in terms of pure volume of body of work. Here it is. So in a way, I still feel like I'm just getting started. So my goals are, I want to get more Kansas going. I want to see what we do next. The veterans of the band do not want to stop anytime soon. They're dying to get back on the road, and so am I. Yeah. So we have more ground to cover.
But for you personally, assuming 2 years from now, right? You have done another 100 gigs with Kansas. You have like a goal to go somewhere else or play with another, or
I'm not thinking about that. But I will say this: today's music industry is such that there are these opportunities where you could do a side album. I could do a solo album on the side or do another project on the side, because the days of being locked in have changed, because the record industry isn't the same. If it was the 70s or the 80s, I would be, locked into, this is what you're doing. And it would be, okay, you got to get us the next record. You got to get on the road. There would be no other time. There would be no time for anything else. Whereas in today's landscape, we could do the album with Kansas, we could do the tour dates with Kansas, and I could be on the laptop writing new music. And the way I've approached it in 2020, and also in what little of this year we've had so far, I'm just writing and recording my ideas. And then when I crack those open, which I'm starting to, and I say, okay, oh, this sounds like a Kansas thing. Right. Here we go. Put it over there. Oh, this sounds like a solo thing. Okay, put it over here. So at the end of the day, I'm going to find out what I've got and where it needs to go. And there are avenues to explore and to put those things out while still staying committed and making Kansas my focus and my priority.
Yeah, that's beautiful that you can put the music away without worrying the time you wrote it, that where is it going to apply to Kansas, or like you say, do something as a trio with another, or do your own again.
And I've never looked at, because people have asked me that question, who do you want to play with next? Who's group? And I don't think about that. And this isn't meant to sound like a boast, but more of just an odd fact that all of those groups, Meat Loaf, Yes, Camel, Renaissance, The Sin, Debbie Harry, and they all found their way to me. And I'm happy that the work spoke for itself and that my name got out there. But I wasn't like out there hitting the phone saying, "Get me in your band." You know, that wasn't my style. Maybe I could have or should have, I don't know, earlier on. But for me, when those calls weren't coming, I knew that my purpose was to create and to write music. So that's what I focused on when that stuff wasn't happening. And lo and behold, the calls would come.
Yeah. Is any particular group or musician out there that you would like to play? Do not necessarily join the band, but do some work together?
Oh yeah, collaborations. I mean, that of course. I mean, I still want to do more with Jon Anderson. I want to do something with Steve Hackett. You know, I want to do something with these great musicians who I've known and worked with.
Yeah.
And or heck, Colin Hay from Men at Work is still my favorite singer. Love to have something with him in my lifetime, because that's just, I hear his voice and it's always inspiring to me.
Yeah, I interview, I think at my second or third, I don't remember, I need to look at the computer, was with Steve Hackett. He's a very nice person, and all the British guys are very different. And after that, I did Anthony Phillip. Anthony Phillip left Genesis, and then Peter, and Steve Hackett got the gig, and very good people, man. Very, good people. So, what about Peter Gabriel? You like the music?
Oh, sure, of course, yeah. Let's get them all. Of course.
Well, now you can be selective. You have to yourself.
Yeah, right.
In your background, you have I have this, I have that. You have moved in incremental stages. People keep on calling you, man. You haven't called anybody, so that's good, man.
Let's get Peter Gabriel. Let's get Sting. Let's get The Weeknd. I mean, he sells millions of albums, so that would be fun.
I'm going to. I do know a guy who can put me in touch with David Sancious.
Oh yeah, and he's a Jersey guy like me too. I've worked with some people, especially.
You met him? Do you know him?
I've never known him, but I love his playing, and I will say that when I worked with Francis Dunnery, he worked with David Sancious a lot. So some of the music I was working with him was in the David Sancious style of playing.
Yeah, I got you. What kind of music do you listen to when you're not composing at home, or when you're cooking, or doing laundry or whatever you do?
I still listen to a lot of jazz.
Yes, yeah.
And the classics, of course, Wayne Shorter and Miles Davis and Coltrane, and a lot of the 60s stuff I still go for. I listen to a lot of soundtracks.
What kind of stuff?
I enjoy that soundtrack composition, anywhere from the classic John Williams scores to Junkie XL or Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor. I just love hearing what can be done in that context. And you can be so adventurous musically and still reach a wide audience. Yeah,
a lot of people like yourself that do piano and keyboards, and they end up doing electronic music, and they take the kind of soundtrack path as well as a parallel career.
Yeah, and I like the funky stuff. I like a lot of the newer, mindful funk fusion stuff like Snarky Puppy, and but also just like the classic groovers, from the 70s and stuff. That's always enjoyable to me.
Do you like Jean-Luc Ponty?
Yeah, of course.
I interviewed him a couple of days ago, 3-4 days. He was very nice to me. Plus, he was a hero of mine. There are two people that when I was growing up in South America, I thought that, man, if I see Jean-Luc Ponty once and the Pat Metheny group once, I will be happy with the rest of my life. Because I remember at the time in the 80s, bands were not going to South America, right? Mm-hmm. So I was going crazy. Now everybody goes to Latin America at the time. So for me, it was very important to move here to the United States, and I did all right in my life. I got lucky along the way, and I did all right. And now I have seen Ponty 20 times, Pat Metheny like 10 times, and I have thousands of records on CD. And so I fulfilled my dream. And I now interview Ponty, and I want to interview Pat Metheny now. So I interviewed the drummer, Paul Wartik also. So
excellent.
I've been little by little, man. Where are your for the weather, are your plans for the near future? I mean, we don't know with the pandemic, but hopefully you guys will tour with Kansas again and go on the road, and then we play. Is any particular venue that you like better than others here in the United States?
Venues. Oh, there's so many good ones. And a lot of times it's about the people that I meet in these places. I have fond memories of venues in Texas, California, here in New Jersey, in small towns. I don't have a preference, but there have been some really notable special places for me, like Radio City Music Hall in New York, or the Beacon Theater in New York. Growing up in the shadow of New York City, it definitely has a big effect on me to play in those legendary venues, or a venue we have here in New Jersey called the PNC Bank Arts Center. That's a place where I saw Yes, and where I saw Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and where I saw so many bands. So when I played there with Yes, it was a pretty great thrill. But places like the Hollywood Bowl or Red Rocks was a great one. I played there with Debbie Harry. And yeah, so I'm very grateful to play the places. But
do you know the Wolf Trap here?
Yes, yeah, we play Yes Symphonic.
It's beautiful. Many of them. Yeah. There's so many. Like I mentioned at the beginning. There's so many. I'm very lucky because since I'm the border with 3 different states, with Maryland and DC, every band's come to this town, man. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm not moving.
Yeah.
Although I'm a computer engineer, this is my passion. This is my side job, my fun. And yeah, I wouldn't move from here. There's so many venues. Where can people listen or buy your music? If you have anything posted on your website or?
Yeah, the best place to learn about me is tombrislin.com, and I spell my name BRISLIN.com, and also tombrislin.bandcamp.com is where I sell my music. We have a store there, and kansasband.com will have updates on what we're up to.
Got you. And the last question: are there any new artists that I wouldn't know that you recommend that we should check out, and then invite them to the radio and perhaps set up interview with them?
Oh wow! You really should talk to Eric Levy from Night Ranger. He is a deep player.
I don't know him. Yeah.
Yeah,
later on you can send me an email with some names.
Yeah, he's
always looking for new people, man.
Yeah, and he's someone who I enjoy watching on Instagram, even though he makes these like 1-minute clips of just improvising, and it's a new way of consuming music, and it can be fun sometimes. I listen to a lot of drummers that way too. I
got you. And then the other, like I mentioned to you, in the new electronic music radio, I'm going to be doing soundtrack, but I want to do not just to play the soundtrack. I'm interested in doing analysis of the music. A good example would be The Shining. That the director at the time hired folks to do the soundtrack, and the director didn't end up. Stanley Kubrick didn't use that. They hired somebody else, and then a film editor decided to put it together, and it's unbelievable. And then that kind of stuff. So not just uploaded the soundtrack, but do analysis of the music. I'm going to be interviewing Hans Zimmer too, from the UK. And
he's a favorite of mine as well.
The guy is unbelievable. I mean, some people are gifted. I mean, I don't know how, they're like you, right? One day you want to look back at your life, man, if you haven't already, and you tell your dad, when you were 10 to still, save enough money to buy your first keyboard, man, and going to college and with spiraling, and then look at now, man. Look at now. You can, I wouldn't be surprised if you end up replacing Tony Banks in Genesis or playing with Peter Gabriel, man.
It's not my goal. I would rather hear him with Genesis. I want to listen to what he's up to. But I will say that you mentioned the film composers, and one thing that I notice is that they still have this childlike enthusiasm about music. If you see Ludwig Göransson or Hans Zimmer, you see their interviews, they're just like kids in a candy store. They're always exploring new things and listening for just something that tickles their fancy and can help elevate a film or a program. I like hearing from them and seeing their process. And I mean, one beautiful thing about progressive rock is that you can kind of think orchestrally in that way, because that to me is what prog rock should be and what it is to me, which is freedom. Freedom to make a song. If it needs to be 3 minutes, then make it 3 minutes. If it needs to be 12 minutes, make it 12 minutes. Just be honest. Do it for the right reasons. You know, I'm not trying to, you know, show how fast I am on the keyboard or whatever. That's doesn't really last long for me. It's more about, I want to bring a feeling to the listener, and you know, have fun with it too. We can play as busy or as sparse as we want to, as long as it elevates the music and makes it a worthwhile listening experience.
And the last question: when you're not doing anything with music, or what you do for fun, what is fun for you when you're not working on? Cooking, gardening, going out, drinking beer.
No, you know, it's funny. You know, I go through phases where, you know, I collect old memorabilia or things.